anxiety because we are so far from the source. I will have to go back in history a little bit to be able to explain this epidemic that anxiety has become nowadays. Most people live in the complete uncertainty 24/7 without any solid base. That's the reason why there's so much overflowing anxiety these days. As humans in our most wild existence, we would just be able to survive if we live in large groups with a tight-knit community mindset. But in today's world, if we are depleted from all the leisures and all those things that make our day-to-day life so much easier, and we are thrown into an island, most chances are that we are going to die before the sun comes out. Unfortunately, most people in the world do not have a solid structure of trustworthy people around. So many times it happened to me that I felt there is no one in this room, there is no one in this gathering, there is no one in this outing that I really trust. There is no one in this place with whom I feel absolutely comfortable. In the past, most people used to live in tribes, and every single member knew very well everybody there. There was such a deep bonding between all the members of the group. And yes, sure, probably they were meeting new members or new members were being introduced to this group, but slowly and progressively. Even when some people were introduced to this group, there was always that core of people that had been there for long. Everybody was protecting each other. Everybody was facing lots and lots of dangers. Everybody was taking care of each other to be able to survive the unstoppable and ruthless rhythm of Mother Nature. They were raising their kids in groups, helping each other, like the same way we see in documentaries how gorillas and monkeys live in tribes too. I'm actually speaking in the past, but of course nowadays there's still a lot of tribes all over the world. I don't know if a lot, but there's tribes all over the world. And let me tell you, I can say hands down, they do not suffer from social anxiety. So back in the day, all the humans were living in big groups, facing millions of difficulties and facing the uncertainty every single day, but as a whole tight unity. The way we live nowadays is just so unnatural, and definitely our mental health is paying with the consequences quite visibly. Modern life has become extremely disconnected from nature, and generation after generation, we have been consistently numbing our most primal instincts. We as a humanity pass from strong bond connections. We pass from groups where each other trusted to death to now a fragmented, very fragmented civilization where people are lonely and people don't have the right amount of connections, deep connections to be able to thrive. Maybe some people trust on others, but they just trust on one, two, or three people. But I don't know many people that have a strong structure of trustworthy, loving people around. The union of loneliness added to a lack of a solid structure is what leaves us finding left and right, up and down people with panic attacks, social anxiety, depression, and a lot more negative mental health conditions. It's really hard to be pushed constantly to the unknown in such an aggressive way. This keeps us from feeling anxious and, in a way, feeling way too many things, to, on the other hand, feel numb and feel nothing because we are absolutely overwhelmed with all these emotions we have to process every single day, and is absolutely exhausting for a lot of people. So, feeling too much, and there you have social anxiety, feeling nothing, over time will lead inevitably to depression. We are just jumping from one extreme to the other extreme. And this is an absolute shock for our systems, for our brains, and for our mental health. It's absolutely great to push boundaries, but it's not when we have to do it every single day just to do something as basic and normal as socializing with people we don't understand, people we don't get to know very well. You suffer social anxiety when you live in a constant state of alertness because you are not truly comfortable and relaxed with the people around you, because you don't truly trust the people who surrounds you. And that level of low trust is so common these days. When people start suffering the consequences of social anxiety, they mostly start taking the pathway of drinking alcohol, drugs, or smoking just to be able to fit in, just to feel accepted. That's a very dangerous and self-destructive way to try to solve, to try to deal with all these emotions and all this anxiety. To me, this all sounds like drugs, smoking, alcohol. It's needed to be able to relax in front of the enemy. I don't know, just have a thought about it. Then on another side, you have the people who suffer from social anxiety, but they give up the fight and they become reclusive, and sometimes they are labeled as introverts. But listen, I'm not criticizing anyone. Each person deals with their stuff the best they can do, and lots of times people don't even have options. Lots of time, traumas and passing through particularly difficult situations leaves people absolutely exhausted, leaves people in the limbo, unable to want to socialize with others, unable to want to meet people. Then the other problem with social anxiety is when you suffer it and you are surrounded by toxic people just to not be alone. And that is pretty dangerous because toxic people will make your life miserable. Well, toxic people will provide us a lot of uncertainty because toxic people are emotionally unstable, and this will fill us up with a lot of anxiety, deep, deep anxiety. And then at the end, connections with toxic people are very complex traps that are absolutely tricky and difficult to escape from. But can we always say goodbye to toxic people? Well, the answer is no. Imagine a kid of 10, 12 years old that lives with parents that are toxic. That kid cannot do anything else than resist for a lot more years until one day he can leave home. But no, it's not always possible to escape toxic relationships. So if you feel social anxiety, please do not go hard on yourself. Please do introspection, start feeling, understanding which are the causes, which are the triggers, which are the situations that cause you anxiety, and where is that anxiety coming from. And once you understand where the problem comes from, maybe it's because of your parents, maybe it's anything that happened, traumatic experiences, at least understanding where it all starts, it's going to free so much space inside you. It's going to release a lot of pressure off you, and it's going to make you feel instantly better. Is everything solved? Understanding why we suffer from social anxiety? No, absolutely no. But it's an absolute amazing place to start changing, to start a recovery process. Who doesn't suffer from social anxiety? Well, I tell you who. For example, those people that are surrounded by loving, trustworthy people around, they feel safe, they feel secure, and they say, okay, now because I have a solid structure, I'm gonna go and I'm going to start exploring, I'm going to start meeting new people, and then those people know that they can come back to their structure and the structure is going to be there. This is exactly what happened to small kids. In the beginning, kids are all the time with mommy and daddy. Why? Because, of course, they won't survive otherwise. But once they know, if they cry, if something happens, mommy and daddy always come to help to make the kids feel good, feel better. Then these kids will feel, okay, now I know whenever I need mom and dad, whenever I shout, whenever I cry, whenever something happens, they assist me. So because I know that's now the normal, I will go and I will explore. And if something happens, mommy and daddy will assist. So those kids start going far from mom and dad. They walk a bit, maybe you're on the beach and they you notice, kids start going far away, and then at some point when they don't feel safe anymore, they come back to mom and dad. But that just happens if the relationship between the kids and the parents is a nurturing, healthy relationship, which of course is not always the case. So we have two options. I already talked to option one, which is when the kid trusts the parents, goes out exploring. But what happens in option two if the kid doesn't trust the parents? Where option two brings us to different scenarios. The kid will glue to its parents, still looking for the attention, the love, the validation that he wants. So he's not gonna go out of exploring. He doesn't have that benefit, let's say. He still has to be with mom and dad, trying to get from them what he wants to get from them. So that kid glued to parents. Then a second scenario when kids don't trust their parents is that they kind of give up. They know they won't get from their parents what they want, and off they go, exposing themselves to million dangers, and they do not have the right tool to face the dangerous situations they are exposing themselves to. So basically, off they go and shit will happen. And this whole situation I explained with kids that trust their parents, kids that don't trust their parents, the same happens to us as adults. You trust people, you love people around you, then you set sails, you go and you explore, you travel, then you come back to safe and sound place. But then you don't trust the people around. There's two scenarios. Either you glue to those toxic people, again, looking for their approval, looking for their love, begging for their validation, or second scenario, off you go, exposing yourself to million dangers and exposing yourself to a lot of problems that are going to hurt you, that are going to destroy you. When people go out carelessly, not having the right tools to protect themselves, basically they are taking a self-destructive approach to life. This approach will literally end up destroying themselves. Following on social anxiety, who else is prone to suffer from it? We have a group of people that they do love the people around them, they do trust the people around them, but they just have very few connections. And this is basically like that saying says, they are just putting all the eggs in the same basket. Let's put as an example a person who is in a relationship, in a nice relationship with someone and loves that person a lot, and then the same person has a very close friend, and that's it. Those are the two people he socialized the most with. Then all of a sudden, maybe for some reason, the relationship finishes and the friend has to move to another country. So this person built a small structure that for X reasons collapsed. Now this person feels absolutely heartbroken, feels lonely, and feels in the complete uncertainty, and he knows he has to start building again a structure from zero. And this is why having very few social connections can absolutely change your life from one day to another one. Our brains have not been made to live under so much uncertainty in the loneliness. We are, as humans, evolving, actually the opposite as evolving, so far from our real roots. Naturally, we are made to thrive in communities, big communities, communities where the members of it will be happy to give their lives, to sacrifice their lives for the sake of the whole welfare of the group, just like animals do. We humans are made to thrive in hugs, kisses, strokes, cuddles, in touching each other. We are not supposed to live reclusive in the loneliness, in the coldness, in the darkness. And our souls and our hearts are paying the taxes for this every single day, higher and higher. We thrive in human connections. We thrive in social environments. I don't want to sound like a granny, and by this point of humanity, we all probably know this, but too much Netflix, movies, social media, gaming is absolutely trash for our brains. It's absolute garbage for our mental health. It's absolute garbage for our overall well-being. The only people who benefit out of the gaming and social media is the owners of these companies that get absolutely richer and richer every single second. Unfortunately, social anxiety by the time becomes into depression, because if you do not have those rich human connections, slowly but sure you are going to fall into depression. Sometimes as humans we do as much as we can to do everything that doesn't favor us, that doesn't favor our brains, that doesn't favor our bodies, that don't favor our true nature. And now, on a friendly note to each person who suffers from social anxiety, it's harsh, but nobody realizes that some people spend tremendous amounts of energy just merely to appear to be normal.